Good morning, or whatever time it is that you're watching this video. I'm Bald Guy with a Beard, and today we're continuing forward on our World Cup inspired bracket site, where if you watch the episode one, the first video, we got to the point where we had created an async component that was reusable for all hooks. And now we look, and we showed actually some group data on the UI, but now we hope to evolve that forward a little bit and show real groupings styled out. And then I'm going to introduce a new concept, not really a new concept to React, but maybe a new concept to you, which is using Memo to cache some data and improve performance on the application itself. But what I want to do is discuss a small change I made to what the project looked like yesterday, and that relates to the data. So you can see here, I used to have groups.json, but now I have tournament.json, and I've deleted it. The reason why I've done this is what I realized was that instead of presenting groups, we're going to want to present a tournament. The tournament itself is going to be considerable for context. If you don't know what that means, we'll probably get into that later, but don't have to understand that right now. But we're going to present tournament with a much more complicated, complex object forward. It will still include the groups, as you can see here, but the groups have also become more complicated in that they're going to have matches and teams related to them that you can see here. So for this example, you can see that Group A had Mexico and South Korea and Czechia. New pronunciation. I don't know where that came from, but or Czechia. I don't know. I don't know the real pronunciation, even though I went and saw them play. South Africa, and then obviously matches that don't relate directly to a team, but relate to the group, because if you applied them to the team, you would duplicate them twice, right? So you don't want to have that. Anyway, long story short, you can get this data below. And what I would do is I would apply it to my data folder, plug it in so that we can get to work on this. Now, the next change is going to be in here. After we have this data, what I want to do is I want to go into use groups, and we're not going to delete this, but we're probably going to comment this out. We're going to create a new hook that's called use tournament.ts. And essentially, this is going to be very similar to this. But obviously the types are going to change, and that's something that we're going to also need to add is new types for the tournament, because we've added on a lot of new types inside that object. Now, one thing real quick here that I just noticed that I'd like to do on the fly here is, if you'll notice that both of these are using this respond function here, and if we continue forward and create a bunch of hooks, that's going to get reused over and over and over again. So what I'd like to do actually is I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to call this datautil.ts. And we're going to move this function in there so it can be reused instead of replicated all the time. So we're just going to do this. Oh yeah, we have to move the latency guy here. That won't be a part of this anymore. Right, and we'll drop that down and put this in here now. Okay, so, and we need to remember to export this, because it has to be exposed to the other components, and we're not going to expose that. So this is great so far. I just want to do this to keep things clean. I love seeing files get cleaned up, less code. Okay, so now what we need to do is we're going to need to import and this was respond from, and this is going to be in data, no, not data, sorry. utils, utils, diddytil. That should be fine. We'll bracket this because it needs it. There we go. So obviously the next step is going to be to convert this use tournament hook from the copy over of the use groups hook, right? We have group information in here. So what we want to do now is make sure we're grabbing data from the correct data file. And this is going to change obviously to tournament. And then this tournament is going to be the data that we used when we call respond here. And we're going to change the name of this to get tournament. And you're welcome to fast forward through this and just do this on your own if you want to real quick. This won't take long, but I understand if you don't want to listen to me talk about basic changes like this. Okay, so we'll use tournament, and then this is going to change to a tournament type, which we don't have yet. And then there we go. So this is as complete as we can get it yet, other than that fact that we're going to want to have a tournament type come from this types file. So now we've not only got to add tournament here, but we've got to add all the accompanying types that are going to be the children of this type. So again, if you want to fast forward through this part, you're welcome to. I'm going to quickly create, I think tournament just had ID, number, and then name, which is string, and then obviously groups. It's now going to have groups. It's going to have a group array. So there we go there. So that should be what we need for this. But the big change was actually in the groups itself, where I did remove this. I could have left it. I'm wondering if I'm going to regret that. I might end up putting it back, but I removed the event ID, I remember. And then we're going to have teams, and that's going to be of type team array, and matches, and that's going to be of type match array. And so we need to create those things down here. And I have created these over here. So I'm going to just copy paste these in, if you don't mind. And we can quickly look over them. So here we go. So we have tournament. This is kind of going in the hierarchical order of what you would expect. So we have a tournament that contains groups. The group contains teams and matches. And then the match has this information. The team has this information, but it also has decorations in it, which are descriptions of the team, what they've done. Won World Cup in 2022 or whatever they have. Won U.S. Cup in 2008. Whatever information about the team that we want to present. And then there's a small type here for that too. So you can see here we've got these 5 types. These are going to be available below as well, so you can just copy paste them in. So once we've got these, save. This is cleaned up our tournament hook. And now we have this, which is not happy. What I'm going to do is, since we've actually removed this respond method and put it in a more central location, I'm going to go ahead and remove it and its milliseconds. And I'm just going to, for now, we'll come back to this. I don't want to get rid of groups because there's probably going to be circumstances where we want to get groups solo and not get the entire tournament or whatever. Because if you recall, the tournament is not just going to be groups. It's going to be a bracket aspect to it too. So we don't want to have to get the tournament every time we want to just get groups. So I'm going to leave this here, and we'll probably get to reusing it at some point. But now what we need to do is, now that we've got this working and we've got the types in there that we need to go and fix the UI a little bit. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to want to do is in the UI, is we're going to want to create a new tournament component. This is going to be where it's going to be the starting point for what we show now in our UI, and it's going to sort of replace the entry point that was groups. So we're going to export real quick, create a function here, a skeleton of one at least, and it's going to be a tournament, and this is going to take over on what's getting the data, right? We're going to remove it. We're going to remove getting data out of, not in the hook, sorry, out of the UI here. Where'd it go? Okay. So the groups were getting data because it was the top level thing, and then it was passing down to all the child components. Now we're going to get from now not use groups, but use tournament, which makes sense, right? And then we're going to change that name to tournament to make it more appropriate. It didn't have any impact. We could have called it groups, but okay, now let's protect our component from our data not being returned. And React allows you to return nothing on this, so we can ensure that if we happen to not get a tournament, which shouldn't happen, that we're not going to try and return any JSX, or in my case TSX, from this, because it wouldn't make any sense, right? And next we're going to have a div, and we're going to take the tournament dot name and display it. And the difference here is also that we're going to have a div, and we're going to run through. We're going to pass the groups that we want in. And one thing to be consistent, I don't necessarily need to do this here, but I think I'm going to destructure groups. I like keeping things clean like this. Destructure the groups from the tournament, so we're not having to say tournament.groups or tournament.whatever entity we have. In this case, we only have one child entity at this point. We'll have more because we'll have bracket eventually, but I like keeping things consistent. So when another dev comes in and sees a component, they know exactly that the structure, or can see that the structure remains the same. In this case, we're going to just need the groups component, because we're going to keep the groups component. We're just going to want to pass in. Now let's go look at groups real quick here, because it's probably broken up. This is not going to be necessary anymore. We don't need a reference to the data because it's not getting the data, it's getting it actually passed in. And now in this case, instead of it having no input, no props, we're going to have to create an interface called groups props. And this is actually going to be groups and of type group array, right? So it's going to expect to receive that, and we will need a reference to that type. And so it's not being used, so it's complaining there. And then we're going to say, okay, props of type groups, props. And now what we can do is now we're going to destructure again here. And we're going to say from the props itself, we're going to say const groups. Let's get the groups from the props equals props, right? And then we already have, if the groups is not here, then move no forward. I'm actually going to change this out. I'll do a return, so to keep consistent with the other component. And now, for the most part, this remains unchanged. So this is kind of nice that the way we've designed our components, that it leaves it pretty open to not great amounts of changes for what we're doing. I know I just alphabet vomited there, but whatever. So we got this in. So let's go back here, and groups is now going to require groups equals, and it'll be groups, right? And it's complaining here, but Oh yeah. So there has to be one root element in a component when you return it. And so we can create what we call a fragment here. You can have an outside div or whatever, but a fragment is essentially a nothing. It won't resolve to anything or render to anything. Let's see here. We have groups, no corresponding closing tag. Yeah, that makes sense. So we'll close this like that. Cannot find any groups. Huh? I guess I didn't import that. So that makes sense. Yeah. And I don't know why group capsule got that. So now we have this. Okay, so now similarly to the first episode, I want to take this to the next level here, although group capsule. Oh yes, we have to change group capsule and have it receive a group, a singular group, instead of the name. So we're going to do that real quick. Add import group, and this remains the same, fine. And again, to be consistent, we'll structure a group from the props, right? And then, and it looks just cleaner down here to see, group.name or whatever. And it was changed to name, so .name, right? But also what we're going to have in group, a group contains we'll have teams, and we're going to eventually have results or from that are from the matches, right? So we're going to have results here too. So we're going to want to include that. For right now, I'm just going to delete the results part. And this little thing, this comment that didn't make any sense to write in there, I'm going to remove that. And I am going to create a team component. So we have, we don't have any team folder yet, I don't think. So I'm going to create a new folder called teams. And inside here, we're going to have a team capsule. Now, for right now, you may have noticed I have a groups component for groups, and I could very easily create a teams component and then call the team capsule from there. I'm just going to go ahead and do the team capsule directly and have it loop in the group capsule. I might change that in the future. So, but yeah, so we're going to have a team capsule and return whatever. Okay, so what this is going to expect is a team. So we again are going to create an interface up here. We're going to call it team props, right? And that's going to be the input to our team capsule again. And this is going to be a team that gets passed in here. And we're going to get a reference to the team type. So we've got that now, and now we're going to set a props and team props. And we'll do our check again. If not, well, actually, we'll do structure first. Const, and we want the team from props. And then we're going to say if not team return. And then what we're going to want to do is display. We'll do, just to start with, we're going to do, before we style this all out, we're going to say team.name. Okay, so now what we want to do is make sure that the groups and groups capsule are wired up correctly. Obviously, it still has some issues here. So let's go take a look at groups and see what its issue is. We have tournament. If you recall, we pass in the groups and the groups are passed in. This all looks correct. The difference here now is the groups are going to call a group capsule, but we're going to pass in a group, not a group name anymore. And this is going to be G for group. So that's it. That'll clean that one up. And now within the group capsule, we're back here again. And what we want to do is I'm going to go ahead and put a fragment in here just to get rid of some of that red. Make sure. Okay, that cleans up a lot. It makes me feel a lot better. Can't stand seeing that. Now we're going to want to walk through. So group capsule has a group, and that group is going to have, so let's take group dot teams dot map, and I'm going to walk through each team, right? And within here, we're going to have a team capsule that we just created. We're going to use that component, and of course, we're going to pass each team in T, right? And close this off. And I once again have used the wrong one. Okay, so now we have this. So now if my calculations once again are correct, this should execute npm run dev. This should execute, and we should be able to see. Yikes! Am I in the wrong folder? Yes, I am. cd bg and now let's npm run dev again. Okay, so let's check this out and see if we see anything in here. And we don't. Okay, so what is the problem? I think I know the problem. In the app component, the root level element is still groups when it should be tournament. I'm probably, if I make 50 videos in this, I'm probably going to do this 50 times on it. It's the second day in a row I've done this. Okay, so let's see if that works now. So now we have World Cup 2026. We have Group A and the teams in that, and Group B and all that. So far, so good. We implemented a complex object, and we have that showing the data correctly, and got this nice foundation of components, and we're showing some of our data in some level of hierarchy. But now let's style these things out so they look a little better before we finish up. What I'm going to do is I've pre-created some style sheets, and I'm going to create them and copy paste them in on here. If you want to fast forward through this and see the end, you're welcome to. You can also get these style sheets down below and add them to your project if you'd like, if you're following along in that manner. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create the group capsule module.css, right? And it's going to be in the same folder as the groups. And I'm going to copy paste this thing in. There we go. We have those styles. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk over to the group here, and we can see this doesn't have much styling to it. I'm going to copy paste what I've done into this. So we're going to have, we'll get rid of this fragment because we're going to have an article and an article around this. And we're going to also import the style, and I'm going to put this up here. All right, so we have that. Then we'll have a header. So this will change to this. And we're going to have some more headers on this, which will relate to the actual table results of this, but we won't fill this out yet. This will be the next step, which is taking the matches and determining what the wins, losses, and what positioning the team should be in the actual groupings, whether they're in first place, second place, third place, fourth place, at any time, right? And then we're going to change this to where it's an unordered list UL, right? And that should just about do it. Now let's, oops, it's kind of throwing up on me here a little bit. Saying it failed to resolve global styles. Oh, I don't have this in global styles. That's why. So let's say, since it's in the same folder, there we go. Reference that. Hopefully that will clean it up a little bit. And hopefully we can come back to this and see, okay, so now we're starting to see some semblance of organization here with the title or the column row here. And now we need to make sure that this gets styled out a little cleaner, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to, again, add a file that is teamcapsule.module.css. And I'm going to, again, copy paste my styles in here. All right, and then we're going to go to the team capsule page here, and we're going to fill this out in a similar fashion with what I've just done before. We're going to have a list item, place it here. So let's do this. It doesn't have team styles yet, so I'm going to need to add those styles up here. There we go. Anything else? Yes, decoration. One of the types that we created earlier in this episode wasn't available, so we added that. And that should be it. So this looks pretty good now. Is it complaining? Failed to import. Oh, this is team capsule module, I think. So that should be fine. This should rerun. And now let's recheck out our bracket and see what we've got. Now look at that. So now this is starting to look more professional. And we have the teams listed and formatted, and we have the columns with the data that we need to actually calculate from the matches. And we'll get into that next. This episode here, sorry about that, with just the complex objects and what we've accomplished with how the groups look. And I will continue forward. Episode 3 will begin with the memoization concept I mentioned in the beginning. So yeah, I'm trying to keep these somewhat limited to 30 minutes so they're not too long and bloated. And so I'll cut this one off here, but I'll see you in the next one.